Welcome to the Hawaii Board of Naturopathic Medicine virtual meeting. Before the meeting is called to order, we will play a short video to explain procedures for this virtual meeting and how members of the public can participate and interact with the board during the meeting.
Welcome to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. When the meeting begins momentarily, the chair will take a roll call, explain any specific rules for this particular board, and then move to public comment. The name of the board member will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. For instance, this is board member Y, and this is board member E. Public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. You can indicate that you are ready to testify by clicking on the Raise Hand button being circled by the mouse on your screen now. At the appropriate time, the board will recognize you to speak and ask you to unmute your mic as shown here. Again, public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. Public attendees will not be able to unmute their microphone until recognized by the board. Public attendees who are recognized to testify will be asked to identify themselves by name and their affiliated organization if applicable. Please mute your microphone when you are finished speaking as a courtesy to others and members of the board. Public attendees will not be able to unmute themselves after the testimony is completed unless recognized again after raising their hand. At some point during the meeting, the board may choose to move into executive session. When the board moves into executive session, the board members' microphones and video feeds will be turned off, and a similar screen as you see now will be displayed. When the board returns from executive session, their microphones will be turned on as well as their video cameras. Welcome again to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. At this time, the chair will call the meeting to order and take a roll call, as well as explain any additional rules that may be specific to this board.
Internet access. To view the meeting and provide live oral testimony, please use the link at the top of the agenda. You will be asked to enter your name. The board requests that you enter your full name, but you may use a pseudonym or other identifier if you wish to remain anonymous. You will also be asked for an email address. You may fill in this field with any entry in an email format. Your microphone will be automatically muted. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may click the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen to indicate that you wish to testify about that agenda item. The chairperson will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chairperson, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you finish speaking. Phone access. If you cannot get internet access, you may get audio-only access by calling the phone number listed at the top on the agenda. Upon dialing the number, you will be prompted to enter the meeting ID, which is also listed at the top of the agenda. After entering the meeting ID, you will be asked to either enter your panelist number or wait to be admitted into the meeting. Since you will not have a panelist number, please wait until you are admitted into the meeting. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may indicate you want to testify by entering star and then 9 on your phone's keypad. After entering star and then 9, a voice prompt will let you know that the host of the meeting has been notified. When recognized by the chairperson, you may unmute yourself by pressing star and then 6 on your phone. A voice prompt will let you know that you are unmuted. Once you are finished speaking, please enter star and then 6 again to mute yourself. For both internet and phone access, when testifying, you will be asked to identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 5 minutes of testimony per agenda item. If connection to the meeting is lost for more than 30 minutes, the meeting will be continued on a specific date and time. This information can be found on the board's websites. The instructions to attend the State of Hawaii virtual board meetings may also be found online.
Thank you. We will now take a roll call to confirm quorum. Members, when I call your name, please respond with present or here and indicate whether you are in the room alone or if anyone 18 years or older is present. If so, please identify them. Vice Chair Dr. Corinne DeSoto.
Present.
Anyone
And I'm
18
alone.
years or older? Thank you. Board Member Ms. Joy Kimura.
Present. I am alone in my workstation.
Thank you. And I, Chairperson Dr. Kristen Coles, am also present and alone. With quorum established, I call the meeting to order at 2:15 p.m. So we'll start with agenda item number 2. This is the approval of the meeting minutes from our November 15th, 2024 publicly noticed meeting. Are there any attendees wishing to provide testimony?
No, there's no public testimony.
Thank you. Members of the board, are there any comments or corrections?
Have no
I have
comments or
one.
corrections.
I have one. From the last meeting minutes on the list of attendees, it's listed as Vice Chair Kristen Coles and Dr. DeSoto is not listed. I think we need to change it to Kristen Coles Chair and Dr. DeSoto Vice Chair. Do you guys see that?
All right, I can address that.
That was the only comment I have regarding the minutes from November 15th. Other than that, can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes for November 15th, 2024?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Chair. Can you
Oh.
make clear that the motion is to approve as amended?
Sure. So can we approve the meeting minutes with amendments on the attendees for November 15th, 2024?
I motion to approve the amended minutes.
Thank you. Can I get, that's Dr. DeSoto. Can I get a second?
Board Member Kimura, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Meeting, the amended meeting minutes for November 15th, 2024 are approved. We can move to item number 3, which is applications. Is there anyone in attendance wishing to provide testimony?
Well, Chair, at this time there isn't.
Thank you. So we can review the list of approved applications to be ratified. I believe that we received that list. Do we have members, board members, do we have any comments or questions? So if there's no further discussion, I, Dr. Kristen Coles, Chair, would motion to approve the ratification list of the approved applications. Do we have a second?
I, Dr. Corinne DeSoto, will second.
Great. So that list of approved applications is ratified. We can move to item number 4. This is our,
Take a vote on it.
Oh, sorry.
sorry, yes.
They motion and seconded, so they have to take a vote on it now.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Chair. You'll have to go by, because we are remote, you will have to go by roll call and confirm each person's vote. Sorry.
Got it. Okay. So I will take a vote. And this vote is to approve the ratification list of our approved applications. I'll start with Vice Chair Dr. DeSoto.
I approve.
Thank you. Board Member Joy Kimura.
I approve.
Thank you. High Chair Dr. Coles will also approve. And that should allow us to ratify the list of applications. So we can move to item number 4, legislative session. So we have the opportunity to review, discuss, and form positions as needed on the following measures introduced by the Hawaii State Legislature for the 2025 legislative session. Please be advised that the board may vote to adjust its legislative liaison for the 2025 legislative session. The legislative liaison will provide support in the legislative session to address and support board positions between meetings. Are there any attendees present who wish to provide testimony on the legislative end?
No, there is no one asking for.
Thank you. So it looks like we have a House bill and a Senate bill, both relating to administrative licensure actions against sex offenders. I think they're paired bills. And Chris, did you want to provide an overview of the bills for us?
Yeah, sure. So, briefly speaking, HB 1054 and SB 1373 are companion bills that were introduced. And they relate to the ability for RICO to take action on a license for someone who is convicted of a crime that requires them to register as a sex offender. I can't speak to the divisions of the types of sexual offenses that require registration, but we have checked in-house that say certain infractions that are like nominal would not be considered required to register. For example, like if one were to say get a like public urination or something like that, this wouldn't be a registering event. That has been brought up in other meetings as a concern. Additionally, the bills do allow for the person in a period of appeal. I believe you have 30 days after conviction. So there is a remedy if someone, say, wants to contest the movement to basically separate the licensee from the license. Historically, the RICO, and actually I might let you, Jordan, maybe describe it, but or you can correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Historically, RICO, the way they have to go about these matters is that basically this stems from a couple cases last year where someone was convicted of a crime that was in a sexual offense, and that person's license was still remaining like active on the website or something like that. So the public's perception of the licensee was that they were still able to license, when in actuality they were probably incarcerated. But the point is to try and address that specific matter, that RICO doesn't have to go through a bunch of motions with our basically our complaint system in order to start the process of pulling someone from their license. This is a sort of an expediting law. But were there any questions with the bill itself, or did the board wish to just discuss it?
Thank you for that explanation. And I know that previously I was a legislative liaison with the board, and Chris, you and I had briefly mention things about these bills, but I'd like to know if there's anyone else on board members who have any comments or questions or need for discussion here regarding these bills, and as a board, if we are in support of this.
This is Dr. DeSoto. I think with that overview and explanation, Chris, it seems like something the board should support, in my opinion. You kind of answered some of the questions that I had about it already.
This is Dr. Coles. I don't have any reason to feel that we need to be in opposition to these bills. I'm in support of anything that allows RICO to do what they need to do in regard to licensees in this way.
At the legislature right now, HB 1054, you could say died. It didn't go through the process of crossover and things like that. So, but SB 1373 is still alive. Most recently, it was heard 2 days ago. It's now in crossover. So this Senate bill is now on the House side, and it went to the House's Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. And they voted, or they recommended the bill be pass with I think amendments. And let me just try to make it simple, but they're taking some of the language from 1054 that they liked, and they're putting it into 1373. As far as we know, it's just a nominal change. And doesn't reflect any real significant trajectory difference for either bill. So I guess today the board would really only be required, if it wishes, to vote for a position on SB 1373.
Do we have anyone on the board who would like to motion in support of SB 1373?
This is board member Kimura. I have a question. So,
Yep.
Christopher, if the board supports this Senate bill, are you, or is the as the administrator for the board, will you be submitting testimony in support, or is there anything that we're supposed to do?
No, actually, I have been already submitting testimony for you that just provides comments until you guys form a position today, since you haven't had a meeting since the session started. So I have been providing basically a very minimal testimony, just stating the facts of the bill, but nothing as far as like evaluating the bill. So it just let the legislature know that you would be meeting today to discuss the bill and vote. So moving forward, the testimony will change to whatever position the board chooses, and then probably wouldn't add too much. This is a part of an admin bill that all the boards that are like in health fields are providing testimony for, and so far all the other boards are supporting. So that's just a little additional information to add on to what you were asking, Joy.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Is there anyone on the board who feels like we should discuss opposition to the bill?
I don't have any at this time. This is Dr. DeSoto. I mean, I think my concern was more about like what, if there are different classifications, the minor versus major offenses, which I think, Chris, you already answered. And so at this point, I am happy to make a motion for the board to support the bill unless anybody else has anything else they want to discuss.
This is board member Kimura. I would like to also support this, make a motion to support this bill. I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second to support SB 1373 relating to administrative licensure actions against sex offenders. And the board is in support of that bill.
Chair, can
And then
you,
Chris,
sorry,
yeah,
Chair, can you finish the vote by doing the roll call part? Sorry, I didn't add that
Yeah.
into.
yes. So roll call vote. So I'll ask each member for their support on this. Vice Chair Dr. Corinne DeSoto.
I approve.
Thank you. Board member Ms. Joy Kimura,
I approve.
and I chair Dr. Kristen Coles will also approve. Before we move on to the next agenda item, Chris, did we want to discuss the legislative liaison so that we can discuss further anything that progresses outside of our actual board meetings?
I mean, I would recommend, since it's been some time since you have voted on that, to maybe enlist either new or continue on with the current liaison.
And so I think this was set up, I think prior to Dr. DeSoto joining, and I think it had originally been prior Dr. Kern and myself. And we're allowed to have 2 members in the legislative liaison, is that correct?
It's got to be less than quorum, so that's correct.
Okay. Is anyone, board members, Dr. DeSoto, Joy, is anybody interested in serving as or being involved in the legislative liaison for the board? And Chris, is there, I mean, really what this entails is simply being available to provide discussion with Chris regarding bills as they move through the House and Senate, correct?
Correct, yeah, so it would be, the discussions would be based on the votes that are entered at the meeting. So if you support SB 1373, then it would be about the discussions between me and the liaison would be clarifying if there's any kind of amendment that the board didn't address at the last meeting, but is still consistent with the vote. So a liaison wouldn't change the vote on behalf of the board. It would just maintain it and ensure that any additional information that's needed to clarify that is provided to the legislature outside of meetings.
Thank you. And I'm happy to continue to serve as part of the legislative liaison, but also happy if anyone else wants to as well.
Spread the wealth.
When there's more than one legislative liaison, then basically, Christy, your questions just kind of go to both, and then between the 2 liaisons, they help answer whatever question there may be between meetings. Is that sort of the purpose of having 2?
Yeah, just in case if it's a time crunch, but really, yeah, it is also to give as many of the members possible under law to address any kind of changes, if there are any, or further discussion in that, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to join on as a legislative liaison, although I do not wish to be the only legislative liaison.
I mean, the major thing is that you guys have me to delegate the testifying for, so.
Yes, that's great.
Well, if you also
Yes.
need assistance, I don't mind volunteering. I do this for my regular job, so I don't mind at all to provide assistance. I am not a naturopathic physician, so I defer to Dr. Coles and Dr. DeSoto. But if it's anything regarding the process, then I'm very happy to chime in and assist.
Thank you. We really appreciate that and your expertise.
Yeah, thank you,
Uh,
Joy. I think my hesitation is that I don't know about the process very well. And so I guess we can, if we need to defer to each other at times, then that's the benefit of having people with different expertise on the board, correct?
Right. I just want to say that during this time, if you have any questions, we can always contact each other. I'm very happy to provide my insight and opinion on the procedural matters and to work with Chris. And as far as subject matter content, since you both are naturopathic physicians, of course, I would always defer to you two to get your feedback on, you know, your feelings on supporting or opposing the measure due to the subject matter content.
Chris, is there any recommendation in terms of legislative liaison and in terms of either having to be both the physicians on the board or having one physician and having a public member? Is there any recommendation on anything that makes more sense than another? Or?
I mean, I don't really have one. I think the board can and should decide, you know. I guess some things to think about would be if most bills are going to be subject matter content. You know, is that, and the majority of discussions will be on the content, then, you know, you should consider that. However, you know, Joy makes a good point. You know, people who are knowledgeable about the legislative process do understand kind of like what we mean by crossover or what we mean by decking and things like that. But that's, you can weigh that against having a member who has the subject content.
Sure.
Oh, this is board member Kimura. Well, what I was thinking was, how about, and I don't want to volunteer anyone, but I was thinking if Dr. Coles and Dr. DeSoto were the legislative liaisons, and if between the two of you, you had any questions, you could always just call me or text me or email me. I'd be happy to give you procedural guidance. And then we also have Christopher, who's also very well versed in it. And between all of us, we can take care of everything, right?
I just want to caution members that remember, pursuant to Sunshine Law, we really can have only conversations on one specific matter between two members on this board because the quorum is 3. I would suggest keeping any questions to the executive officer if Joy is not on the committee, or I mean, is not a liaison. Anything outside of that, you can all contact me and ask questions about the Sunshine Law, and we can also refer to Jordan here as well for any questions on that.
Or within the Sunshine Law guidelines, you could just text, one of you could just text me yourself and contact me, that way, and that's within the law too.
Right. So it's just, we want to make sure we're not doing any chaining of things. Okay.
Thank you. So the point is that discussion of anything outside of our established board meetings can only be within 2 members of the board.
For this specific board, yes, because your quorum is 3.
Correct. Thank you. So I would like to make a suggestion that Dr. DeSoto and myself, Dr. Coles, serve as the official legislative liaisons so that we can address any subject matter jurisdiction that may come up. If anyone has any support or opposition to that, please chime in.
Well, I would like to second that motion.
Do I need to take a roll call on that?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'd like to take a roll call for approval. If you approve, please say aye or yes to Dr. DeSoto and Dr. Coles serving as legislative liaison for the board. Vice Chair Dr. DeSoto.
Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Ms. Joy Kimura.
Yes.
Thank you. And as the chair, Dr. Coles, I also say yes. So our legislative liaison comprises of 2 members of our 3-person board. Moving forward, that will be Dr. DeSoto and Dr. Coles. Thank you. We can move to agenda item number 5, and this is an ongoing discussion for testosterone and the naturopathic formulary. We have had ongoing discussions and will continue today to reassess the inclusion of testosterone into the board's naturopathic formulary. We will review the formulary with regard to its structure as an inclusionary formulary and pursuant to HRS 465-6(7). Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to provide testimony today?
I'm fair, there is no one to provide testimony right now.
Just to, Dr. Michael Traub was in attendance for the purpose of providing testimony. Did he say that he had to leave, or is he maybe having connection issues?
I see him trying to pop in.
Yeah, I think he was at one point or twice on, but then he's not specifically on right now. So, obviously, at any time he comes in, he can raise his hand, and Chair, you can acknowledge his hand and ask for testimony.
Great. Will I see the hand or will someone be watching?
We will be watching.
Great. Please let me know if anyone shows up to provide any testimony. So we have a few things that have transpired in between the last time we brought this up and our current session. I know that Chris, you were able to send a letter to the Jared Radula Narcotics Enforcement Division. Did we receive any reply from him?
I haven't received a reply yet. Information I've gotten is, really related to session. I think it's very busy right now, but I want to reach out to him here soon because I don't want too much distance between when I submitted to him, but also just to ensure that it was received. But I did send it directly to his email, so. Oh, good.
It looks like maybe we have somebody attending again in the waiting room.
He's not in.
Oh, he's in. Sorry, Dr. Traub, this is Christopher Fernandez, Executive Officer. You're now in the meeting, so if you wish, you can bring up your camera and unmute yourself.
Let me put him in hold.
Okay, it says that I'm unable to start the video, but that's not a good idea anyway, because I'm in my car, I'm going to be driving. I'm sorry, but I have to attend a wedding at 4 o'clock, so I need to be a mobile attendee at the moment, but I'm happy to be with you all.
Okay, that should be fine.
Thank you, Michael. Welcome. This is Dr. Coles. Please chime in and give us any information regarding testosterone in the naturopathic formulary that you would like to.
Well, I'm attending this because I know that you folks have done some groundwork on the subject, and seems like you may be at a point now where the board can take some action. And I just kind of wanted to be a resource and also provide any historical perspective that might be helpful. I will say one thing. When I was reading the minutes of the meeting from last November, it was noted that the Hawaii naturopathic formulary was kind of built on formularies in other licensed states where they had broad prescriptive authority. And actually, it really was mostly taken from a task force that I served on in California when they got their law passed and needed a formulary. They have never promulgated their formulary, but when when the law was passed, they were able to have authority to prescribe testosterone. And so in a state that it happens to be a state that really has very little independent prescriptive authority, but testosterone is an exception that the board made because it, was widely known and accepted that it was a medication that was in, in use by a lot of people in California. And at the time, though, during the negotiations of the scope expansion bill, it was kind of a policy that the board adopted not to have any controlled substances on our formulary, and so that's the way it's been since then. And there have been numerous attempts to change that through legislation, but they were never successful.
Thank you. That's helpful insight as we move forward with reassessing testosterone as something to include on the formulary. Is there anything else that Dr. Traub, you feel like would be instructional for us to include in our discussion with this moving forward?
Not that I could say right now. I think, that you had quite a lengthy discussion in your November meeting about the actual, limitations perhaps that the board could conceivably have in terms of adding a controlled substance to the legislature, to the formulary. But I think that, you've already kind of discussed those aspects, and I don't really have anything else to add to that. I mean, in my opinion, just to be obvious, I don't think that there's anything that is, blocking the board from adding testosterone to the formulary, and then those who want to be able to prescribe it would need to get a DEA number and a Narcotics Enforcement Division, permission to do so. And so I think it's kind of like seems like the infrastructure is there to go ahead and do this, and I support it. And I guess I should disclose that I am president of the Hawaii Society of Naturopathic Physicians. We've discussed this amongst our board members, and there's unanimous support for the state association to support this if the board so wishes to add testosterone to the formulary.
Great. That's great to know. And one of the things that has come up in our discussions in the state board is, looking forward into if this was something that we were able to include in the formulary, requirements that might be looked at for specific training for any of the licensees in the state who wish to proceed with going forward for a DEA number to be able to prescribe testosterone, in terms of making sure that our licensees are familiar and up to date in prescription in regard to testosterone. Is that something that the HSNP has any opinion on?
No, I can't speak for the association, but I'll give you my opinion on that. I think there's pros and cons. Obviously, it's good for licensees and prescribers to be well informed. On the other hand, our formulary already includes many other drugs that are more dangerous than testosterone. And so I think that it really is probably not ideal to, add it to the formulary with requirements for obtaining training. But I wouldn't oppose that. I just don't think that it's likely to be necessary.
Thank you for your input on that. Do I have any other board members who have questions for our attendee, Dr. Michael Trop, today?
This is Dr. DeSoto. I do have a question, Dr. Traub. You mentioned that, you know, at the time during the discussions with the scope expansion, the board decided to not pursue any controlled substances. Was that just a decision on behalf of the board, or how did that decision come about?
Frankly, I don't clearly recall, but my sense is that it was part of the compromising that we were making at the time with Hawaii Medical Association. I mean, the board had, or the bill for scope expansion had a lot of support from, you know, the committees that we're hearing at health committees and Commerce and Consumer Affairs Committee. Dr. Senator Ige and Senator Green and Senator Ross Baker were very strongly in favor of passing this legislation. So I think that it was like a token compromise that those of us that were lobbying for passage of the bill made to try to remove any concerns about naturopathic physicians prescribing controlled substances. You know, at the time, the opioid epidemic was really just beginning, but there were concerns that if we were able to prescribe opioids and other controlled substances, that there certainly could be risk issues. So I think it grew out of that concern.
Okay, thank you for that insight.
Are there any other questions that anyone from the board has, or any other comments, Dr. Traub, that you would like to make today? We appreciate you showing up and providing testimony.
No, I don't have anything else. Unless, you know, there are further questions.
Oh, this is board member Kimura. May I ask Dr. Traub a question? Dr.
Joy,
Traub,
could you speak up a little bit? Because I'm in a car and I can't hear you really well.
Okay. My question is there any organizations or entities that are in opposition to having this as part of the naturopathic formulary?
Not that I know of. That's a good question. We have had in years past when we have had legislation to add testosterone to our formulary. We had strong support from the Narcotics Enforcement Division, Department of Health, and I believe there may have been an opposition from time to time from the Hawaii Medical Association, but that's nothing new. And but there were no other groups other against it. I could be wrong. It was a long time ago, but that's my sense.
But at
I think the
at
Board
this
of
present time,
Pharmacists support.
currently, have you heard of any opposition to it, or anyone against this?
No, nothing currently.
Oh, that's good. Okay, thank you.
No.
Thank you, Joy. That's a great question. Is there any further discussion while we have Dr. Traub here that anyone would like to engage in?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Traub, for your time to testify on this issue. I know you're on your way to a wedding, and so, you know, we are all very appreciative of your time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. The historical insight from Dr. Traub, who's been, how many years have you been practicing now as a naturopath in Hawaii?
No, did we lose him?
Oh, maybe. Dr. Traub, can you hear us? Wow.
Oh, we just lost him.
Oh, well.
Dr. Traub,
It looks like he exited the meeting.
okay. He's been practicing for very, very long time as a naturopath here in Hawaii. So we appreciate that testimony. I'm unsure if and when if we're supposed to enter executive session for anything else specific to further the conversation, or if we can continue to have conversation in this setting.
You can enter executive session. Specifically for this agenda item, it would probably be under the guise of counsel. So if you have questions for the AG, you can ask them confidentially.
Okay, and I know we have a new AG, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Can we welcome Jordan?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself, but yeah, I'm Jordan Shing. I'm the new deputy assigned to this board. So nice to meet everyone.
Thank you. We really appreciate you being here. And have you looked at any of our prior discussion on the testosterone issue?
Yes, I have. I've looked at the minutes for the last meeting. I know that this was discussed pretty extensively, and if you'd like to discuss my thoughts on this or on this issue, I would advise that we go into executive session to the extent that we're discussing the board's powers, immunities, and liabilities.
Great. I think we might in a moment. Before we go into executive session, I think we can probably discuss here a little bit further some of the information that was provided in the packet for us, Chris, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
So there was some good information that was added to our meeting, our board meeting, which was specifically the different authorizations by state on mid-level practitioners. I thought that was instructive, and I don't know if all the board members were able to see that, but I think it was interesting to note that in the state of Hawaii, there are numerous other mid-level practitioners, which naturopathic physicians in the state of Hawaii are in that same category as mid-level practitioners. So similar to NPs, which are nurse practitioners, and PAs, physician assistants, both of those mid-level practitioners in Hawaii have what's called the 3N prescription authority, which involves testosterone. I thought that was notable. And then I think, to be clear, understanding that the authority for the licensee to use testosterone goes through the DEA. So understanding the steps in terms of what this would mean as a board if we were to include testosterone on our formulary. The next step is not an automatic that every licensee, naturopathic physician licensee in the state of Hawaii, is automatically able to prescribe testosterone. The next step there is that anyone who would like to be eligible for that prescriptive authority has to then apply for a DEA. So I think those are some really good clarifications to be made. Board members, anybody have any sort of discussion regarding the additional things to the packet or anything on that to comment on?
This is Dr. DeSoto. I really appreciated these additions to our packet from what we had set for the February meeting. I think that the 2 tables provided were incredibly helpful. as Dr. Coles mentioned, not only to compare to other providers in our own state, but also to look at the, overview of naturopathic doctors in other states and their prescriptive abilities. And there's actually more states than I thought that have testosterone prescriptive ability and some of them, and beyond. So it's good to see even just that, we're not really moving into uncharted territory for our profession. It's actually in alignment with many other licensed states at this time as well.
Thank you. That's a very good point. I also wanted to discuss that there were some interesting components to these charts that we may need to include in our discussion with regards to testosterone, which is that it appears that these charts make some other denotations around testosterone. So there's wording that includes the ability to prescribe, the ability to administer, and the ability to dispense for testosterone. And I thought that was kind of interesting on these tables. So I also found this to be a really interesting table to look into. And I think that with our discussion regarding testosterone, including it in the formulary, I would like to enter executive session to just hear from our AG anything else regarding our ability to place it on the formulary before we sort of start discussing anything further. Can I get a motion to enter executive session?
Motion, this is Dr. Soto. I motion to enter executive session.
This is Board Member Kimura. I second the motion.
Thank you. I don't know how to do it, but can we enter executive session?
Sorry, we'll do the roll call first.
Oh, okay. Let's do a roll call. Thank you. Vice Chair DeSoto, if please say yes or aye if you would like to enter executive session to discuss.
Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Ms. Joy Kimura.
Yes.
And I chair Dr. Coles vote yes to enter executive session.
Moving now.
You guys just sit tight, no more. Okay.
Should I take a roll call to see who's here? Or?
One second, we'll wait till we get the panel down. Yeah, just do a roll call. You don't have to do a vote, just a roll call.
This is a roll call to see if our board members are present. Dr. DeSoto, are you present and alone in your room?
I am present and alone.
Thank you. Ms. Joy Kimura?
I'm present and alone.
Thank you. I, Chairperson Dr. Coles, am also present and alone. So we can continue here with our wrap up on discussion for agenda item number 5, which is testosterone in a formulary and the inclusion of it. So Chris, can we request for you for the next meeting to put together any clear avenues forward for us as the board to examine in the inclusion of testosterone on the formulary?
Yes, and I have some suggestions that I can look into. For example, looking at the legislative history of the states that specifically only allow for testosterone. And then also reaching out again to the Narcotics Enforcement Division, and let me see if there's any additional, and also giving you guys our own legislative history, so you guys have something to look through. That'll be the preliminary info I'd like to get out to you guys before the meeting, and then from that, start building on that.
Great.
Those specific avenues that you're asking for, sorry.
Yeah, so I think specific avenues is understanding, do we need to introduce a bill? Is there any further discussion we can have on just adding it to the formulary, or is that over? I think just some really clear ways forward would be helpful. Do we need to do any motions on that? Okay. Can we move on to the next agenda item? Board members, any further discussion on item number 5? So that brings us to agenda item number 6, which is our next meeting date. The next meeting is scheduled for Friday, June 20th, 2025, 2 p.m. And at this point, I believe I can adjourn our meeting today, correct? All right,
Yes,
so I don't know if we need a timestamp, but it is 3:48 p.m. and I appreciate everyone tuning in and contributing. Thank you so much. Welcome to the new AG Jordan. We appreciate your input, and I look forward to seeing everybody in a few months. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you, everyone. Appreciate you all. Have a great weekend.